Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking all about life.
I just have a lot of feelings.
No, not my life. I'm talking about the new sci-fi horror film by Daniel Espinosa, which stars Ryan Reynolds, Rebecca Ferguson, and Jake Gyllenhaal. A horror film set in space. What does that remind me of? So Life tells the story of 6 astronauts aboard the International Space Station who retrieve a probe that has been sent to Mars to collect soil samples, and in the soil samples they find a single-celled organism which proves that there is life on Mars. What could go wrong? It's like they haven't even seen Mars attacks. As to be expected, this life form that they've called Calvin starts growing at an exponential rate, but it doesn't like being experimented on. One day it grows big enough to attack and it manages to escape its quarantine environment, and this little bugger is no E.T., okay? This is one vicious little parasite hell-bent on chowing down on the all-you-can-eat buffet on board the International Space Station. And so it becomes a survival story for our astronauts. So yeah guys, I was really on board for this film during its first act. I thought the actual premise of this was quite plausible. One day scientists might actually discover life on Mars, and this might actually be a way of how we would actually study it to keep our planet safe. But when you play God, you're gonna get some wrath. But sadly, as soon as the film shifts its narrative from scientific discovery to kill 'em off one by one survival story, it kind of lost me a little bit. It falls victim to the typical sci-fi horror cliches. It borrows heavily from Ridley Scott's Alien, but it doesn't do anything to improve it or build upon it. The tension isn't as palpable, and there isn't really any standout moments. And whilst the characters are likable, particularly Hiroyuki Sanada and Ariane Bakari, God, that's a bit of a tongue twister, I didn't really find myself rooting for any of the characters to survive. But there is stuff in this film to enjoy. I actually thought the special effects in this were pretty consistent. I thought the creature design for Calvin was actually very good. At first he starts off like this transparent starfish, but as he eats and gets bigger and more vicious, he becomes like this alien squid thing. And when you have a very hungry CGI creature, you need it to look believable in order to feel the tension. And generally, yes, I did buy into the creature of Calvin. There were quite a few times in this film where I just really wanted them to kill the bastard. But it's one slippery little eel. And the performances in this are pretty decent as well, even though Ryan Reynolds basically showed up and got to play a slightly less crude version of Deadpool. The man just gets to show up on set and get paid to be himself. But yet in the real world, Ryan Reynolds would be the perfect sort of space cowboy, wouldn't he? But whilst Life had a very interesting concept, the overall execution of it felt rather bland, and that's probably because there's nothing really new here. Everything about Life that was cool has been done better in other movies. For example, the opening scene was very similar to Gravity in that it's like one continuous fluid shot that doesn't cut for like 10 minutes. But it didn't feel as slick or as groundbreaking as it did in Gravity. And of course, the whole alien killing off the crew members one by one is the exact plot from Alien. And I love those kill 'em off one by one type of movies, but you have to care about the characters in order to be emotionally invested in the film. And sadly, the deaths didn't hit me the way they should have, and they weren't as inventive as Alien. And also, one more thing that bothered me is that some of the plot developments in this film were a little bit muddled. I'm verging on spoiler territory here, but I'm gonna try to do my best not to spoil it for you. But there's a scene 3/4 of the way into this movie where the remaining crew members isolate themselves in a specific part of the International Space Station in order to try and suffocate the alien Calvin to death. But then all of a sudden there's this surprise revelation that the creature Calvin was on one of the crew members this whole time. And it made no sense to me. The way this scene was shot made no justifiable reason as to how this creature would have ended up on this character without anyone noticing. I could have maybe bought it during the earlier scenes when it was a tiny little starfish and it might have been easily concealed. But at this point in the movie, it has grown to a very big size. There is no way that this character would not have noticed this giant thing latching onto them. Maybe if this scene was shot and edited better, it would have been more justifiable. To sum up guys, Life is a somewhat entertaining sci-fi horror film that has an interesting concept at its core. Despite decent performances and special effects, what lets Life down is the lack of originality from its second act onwards. It sadly falls into the predictable cookie-cutter tropes of its genres. It is engaging, but it isn't captivating, so when you leave the cinema, you kind of feel a bit, meh, I've seen it all before. So yeah guys, I'm gonna give Life a 5 out of 10. So yeah guys, here's a question for you. What's your favorite kill 'em off one by one type of movie? For me personally, I'm a big fan of the Final Destination movies, but what's your pleasure? Do you like watching giant snakes, giant sharks, other giant creepy crawlies? Whatever it is, you can let me know in the comments section below, or you can tweet me. Thanks so much for watching guys. For more things related to movies, TV, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you next time.